But that's not how I define myself politically. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. Before I go any further, let me quickly dispel 3 myths about the Frederick Douglass Republican movement. 3 myths I want to quickly dispel. Myth number 1, the Frederick Douglass Republican movement is not a black membership organization. It is not. To become a Frederick Douglass Republican is not based on your ethnicity or your skin color. It's based on your adherence to those 4 life-empowering values. It's not about color, it's about values. So anybody can become a Frederick Douglass Republican. Myth number 2, the Frederick Douglass Republican methodology of engagement, it is not about how to share conservatism with black folks. It's broader than that. It's how to share the life-empowering values of the conservative philosophy with all Americans. Frederick Douglass is the bridge over the abyss of racism and class warfare that's been created by the left. If you're going to have a diversity outreach program or a diversity inclusion program and Frederick Douglass is not your primary focus, you don't have one. Because what the left is going to do, they're going to play the race card. Douglass trumps the race card. The left's going to play the class warfare attacks. Douglass defeats the class warfare attacks. I'm going to explain that to you in a minute. Those 5 major voting blocks that we did poorly in, blacks, Latinos, women, young people on the conservative base, Douglass resonates with all 5 of them. Black Americans, Frederick Douglass is the grandfather of the civil rights movement. Dr. King is the father of the civil rights movement. He got many of his ideas and strategies from the writings of Frederick Douglass. How does Douglass resonate with Latinos? He resonates with Latinos in terms of immigration. Back in 1868, the 1800s, the Chinese were being brought here to work on the railroad. They asked Douglass to comment on Chinese immigration. In a speech he gave called our composite nationality, Douglass said, for humanity reasons, let them come. This is the best country in the history of the world. Let them come so they can improve their quality of life for their families and discover their God-given gifts and talents. But Douglass said in that same speech, Douglass said there's a process. You don't have to write this down, it's just in the book. Douglass said, number 1, Douglass said they must bow, quote, bow to the same law. Bow is a form of respect. Respect the rule of law. Douglass said, number 2, they must speak the same language. Learn to speak English. Douglass believed in assimilation. Douglass said, number 3, they must understand the duties of citizenship in this country. The first duty of citizenship is to obey the law and to study and value the significance of our Constitution. Douglass said we must mold them into Americans. How does Douglass resonate with women? The first ever women's rights convention was held in Seneca Falls, New York, back in 1848. Susan B. Anthony was there. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was at that meeting. Sojourner Truth was there. 200 women were there. 32 men were also there. Only 1 man was invited to speak. Frederick Douglass. He was affectionately referred to as a women's rights man. Because don't forget now, the women involved in the women's suffrage movement also worked with Douglass in the anti-slavery movement. So they had this kinship already. How does Douglass resonate with young people? For the first 20 years of his life, Douglass was a slave. See, Frederick Douglass was born below poverty. Frederick Douglass was born below poverty. Herman Cain, Dr. Ben Carson, they were born into poverty. But when you're born into slavery, you're born below poverty because you don't even own your own body. I love Raphael Cruz, Senator Cruz's father. It's about how he came here with 0. I saw him in Birmingham this weekend. I said, yeah, that's an amazing story. I want to share somebody with you. Douglas was started below zero. Douglas was born below poverty. Never owned a pair of shoes until he was 8 years old. Never slept in bed until the age of 10. Douglas was homeschooled, self-taught. He started his own homeschooling program to learn how to read and write. Because you know it's against the law to teach blacks how to read and write. Douglas realized as a young boy, I better learn how to read and write. Because my key to freedom is through being educated. While even on a plantation as a teenager, he started a tutorial program to teach other blacks how to read and write, to prepare them for what? To prepare them for liberty when they eventually ran away, would run away. He escaped from slavery in 1838. He escaped from slavery in 1838 at the age of 20. He escaped from slavery in 1830. What did he escape from? He escaped from slave master-run healthcare. He escaped from slave master-run healthcare like we should escape from slave government-run healthcare. Slavery by government is still slavery. The slave master provided for his food, his clothing, gave him shelter, gave him food. Douglas was getting that free ticket.
Cell phone.
And it's cell phone. Yeah, you know, matter of fact, if Governor Romney was here, he'll probably say Douglas was a 47%. But the story doesn't end there. Douglas, when he escaped, he got involved in the abolitionist movement. Never been to school in his life. The man wrote 3 autobiographies. He didn't have a ghostwriter. 90% of black Americans at that time in history could not read or write. Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman were illiterate. Douglas wrote 3 books. Matter of fact, because of a fire, of arson related, 12 years of his writings are lost. He didn't get a chance to download it. He lost it. That sent him to a great deal of depression. Frederick Douglass was an advisor to 5 Republican presidents. Let me say that again. Frederick Douglass was an advisor to 5 Republican presidents. Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, Rutherford Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, and Ulysses S. Grant. Never been to school in his life. How does it relate to young people? In his youth, while on the plantation, he put an action plan together that prepared him for freedom. He maximized educational opportunities while on the system. Frederick Douglass was a capitalist. Let me say that again so you don't think I said something differently. He was a capitalist. He was a free market entrepreneur. He was a public speaker. He wrote 3 books. He had several newspaper comments. One was called the North Star that Lincoln was a subscriber to. Trivia question for you. Frederick Douglass passed away in 1895 at the age of 77 as a result of a heart attack. How much money in savings do you think he had amassed at the time of his death? Think about that while I give me a sip of water.
$1 million.
1 million. Don't give me the inflation dollars. Get to me back then. 100,000, 30,000, 1,000, 100 bucks. Frederick Douglass had $300,000 in savings. $300,000 back then is over $10 million today. Here's the point. Douglass was a 47%er who became a 1%er. He didn't wait for the nanny state to take care of him. He discovered his God-given gifts and his God-given talents, and he took his obsession and made it a profession. The way we show how conservatism works and the aspect of conservatism, how it improves the quality of life, is through Frederick Douglass. You know why it works through Frederick Douglass? Because nobody today can out-victimize him. The left don't like this story. Why do you think there's never been a movie on Douglass? Never been a movie on Douglass. Those socialists in Hollywood not to do a movie on Douglass because Douglass' writings refutes their lies and propaganda. Let me say this, and don't leave when I say this. Don't leave the room, I'm going to come back and explain it. If we want to defend liberty and the Constitution, we must must incorporate Douglas into our message. We must do it. The political insight of Frederick Douglass is more important than the political insights of the founding fathers. You think about that for a minute. The political insight of Frederick Douglass is more important than the political insights of the founding fathers. Here's why I say that. The founding fathers gave us two magnificent documents: the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Right? Some of the founding fathers owned slaves. Upon the ratification of the Constitution, that's not when they freed the slaves. They waited till after they died to free their slaves. So therefore, their view of liberty is somewhat tainted. Frederick Douglass did not own any slaves. He was a slave. But in his writings and his speeches, he affirms the founding fathers and he affirms the Constitution. And the left can't tackle that. He affirms the founding fathers and he affirms the Constitution. Douglas said about the Constitution, he said the Constitution is not a pro-slavery document. Douglas said the Constitution is an anti-slavery. Now, he didn't think that way at first now. When Douglas was mentored by William Lloyd Garrison, the Garrisonians believed that the founding fathers gave us slavery in the Constitution. Douglas believed that himself at one time, until he went back and read the Constitution for himself. And he read the founding fathers' convention notes. I guess we'll call them Federalist Papers. Douglas said the Constitution reads, "We the people." It does not say "we the white people." Douglas went on by saying, if black folks are people, then they are to be included as benefactors of the Constitution. Douglas went on to say the problem is not with the Constitution. The problem is in the application of the Constitution.
Yes.
Like the Dred Scott decision. When a Democratic-dominated Supreme Court gave us the Dred Scott decision that blacks are not protected by the Constitution because they're property. And that blacks have no right that the white man is bound to respect. He's merely property. That's not a fair application of the Constitution. Douglas went on to say the problem is not with the Bible. The problem is in the application of the Bible. So thank God that we have a literary legacy of the writings of Frederick Douglass to refute the lies and propaganda of the left. That's why Douglas is key. That's why he's so important. That's why we got to incorporate him into our message. I'm traveling the country and I'm doing a series of workshops. Got a workshop entitled Frederick Douglass Republican 101. Matter of fact, if you're looking for a nonpartisan expression, we also call it Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger 101. If you hung up on that word Republican. It's Frederick Douglass Republican 101, and I use that interchangeably with Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger 101. Now, I must tell you, the Frederick Douglass Republican phrase, God gave me that phrase. I'm going to explain what I mean by that in a minute, why it's so powerful. The Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger phrase, I came up with that to help some of these 501c3s out. But God gave me Frederick Douglass Republican. Okay? But here's what you got to understand. We're losing the propaganda battle. I mentioned I don't use the word conservative. The word conservative, the phrase Tea Party, the phrase Republican Party, even the word Constitution, those words they have a negative connotation because we're losing the propaganda battle, and those words, they mean racist. If you call yourself a black conservative, a Christian conservative, a Reagan conservative, you might as well call yourself a black racist, a Reagan racist, a Christian racist. We're losing the propaganda battle. The left is taking our words and they're demonizing it and making us look like redeemers. And that's what they want to do. Because when you don't have truth on your side, you got to attack. You have to attack every day. They attack us every day. We have not, Republicans, conservatives, we have not had, let me say this. As a Frederick Douglass Republican, we are anti-establishment, anti-status quo Republican Party. I forgot to say that, but it's important for me to say that. We are anti-establishment, anti-status quo Republican Party. Republican Party today does not resemble the party of Frederick Douglass. Not at all. And you waiting for the RNC cavalry to come, the cavalry ain't coming. They ain't coming. The RNC lacks the ability to fix itself. I met with them. They ain't coming. We gotta do it from the bottom up. When you do it from the bottom up, we gotta move some furniture around. Things gonna change. We gotta embrace liberty. So, we gotta understand it's all about propaganda. We have the best ideas. The problem is that we're not getting to that second battle because the first battle is propaganda. If I hear through the media, if I hear for a long period of time that conservatives are racist, that black conservatives are sellouts, and you do nothing to counter that, but that's all I hear, and now you're going to come trying to engage me, why the heck am I going to listen to a racist? Why am I listening to somebody I perceive to be an Uncle Tom? I don't care about the truth that you tell me or the evidence you provide. You're a racist. We got to win that propaganda battle. Douglas, how you do it. Remember I said Douglas defeats the class warfare attacks? He was a 1%. Nobody did more for the poor than Frederick Douglass. You see where I'm going with this thing? This whole thing about saving this nation. Thank God for giving us Frederick Douglass for this time in history. I was on some show, I think it was a radio show one time. It wasn't your show, Willie.
Good.
Somebody called in, very jealous. I can tell it was a left-wing minded person. Why are conservatives using Frederick Douglass to show they're not racist? Why do you got to go back 150 years? I said, well, ma'am, Christians can go back over 2,000 years to read the writings of the Apostle Paul to get some spiritual inspiration. Why we can't go back 150 years to read the writings of Douglass to get some political inspiration? Hello, caller, are you there? Hello? Conservatives are racist. Republicans are y'all racist. Man, racism has no political face. You got racists in the Democrat Party. You talking about the white folks, and none of them are racist, never been? But they want to paint the picture. If you're a white liberal, black liberal, or aligned with the Democrat Party, you can't be a racist. You've never been a racist. You're pure, pristine, you can't sin. But if you're a conservative, or you're aligned with the Tea Party or 9/12 group, you're demonic. You have no redemptive quality in your life. That's the picture they're painting. Because why? They don't have truth on their side. When you have truth on your side, you must attack. Revelations 12:10. Satan sits at the throne of God all day long and all night long. He does it all the time. He is the accuser of the brethren. It's a demonic technique. Don't think we're not in a spiritual battle.
Amen.
But thank God we got Douglas on our side who wrote these things down. So let me get into this whole thing about, I want to give you, let me back up. So what we're doing, I'm traveling the country. I'm hit all 57 states. All 50 states. And what we're doing, I'm doing things like this, but I do it more of a training environment where I am intentionally preaching to the choir. We have a 2-hour training program. I'm preaching to the choir because the choir, the conservative choir must be empowered. The conservative choir must be trained. The conservative choir got to be equipped how to go out and get new choir members. The last myth is this. Here's the last myth. I want you to stop believing the lie that as a white conservative, you cannot engage somebody of a different ethnicity. Stop believing a lie that in order to advance conservatism, you got to send a black person to go talk to black folks. I know some black conservatives who can't engage black folks. Stop believing a lie that you got to send a Latino out to go out and talk to people of that ethnicity. Stop believing that lie. You can do it, but you must be trained and equipped into something that works. Who established a diversity inclusion program that is still having a major impact in the world? Who established a diversity inclusion program or a diversity outreach program that is still having a major impact in this world? It was Jehovah God when he commissioned Paul to take the gospel to the Gentiles. Paul was a Jew by ethnicity. He was commissioned to take the gospel to people of different races, the Gentiles. The conservative movement is predominantly made of white Americans. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to share the life-empowering message of a conservative philosophy to people of different ethnicities. Paul had to be trained how to do it. One of his trainers was Gamaliel. You had to be trained how to do it. I had to be trained how to do it. I didn't get this thing right. I had to be trained. Now that I've been trained, I can train you. And then you know who trained me? Jehovah God trained me. I talk about that in the book. He trained me. He gave me this message. I'm not making this stuff up. This thing is bulletproof. This message of Frederick Douglass Republican methodology of engagement has been barbershop tested in the black community. Let me tell you what happened. When God gave me this message, and he perfected his message in me, the first person I tried it on was my younger brother of 5 years. Preacher, a black pastor for the past 28 years. Voted for Obama the first time. And I sat him down for about 6 months. I said, I want you to read this on Douglas, read that on Douglas, read this on Douglas, read this on Douglas. Here's how you respond to the challenges. You know, this is how you respond to these things. You got to know how to take the challenge and turn it around. So one morning we got in the car. We live in Birmingham, in the Birmingham metro area. I said, come go to Atlanta with me. And he and I put on a t-shirt. I have a t-shirt that we produced, has 3 big bold letters on it. It has FDR, it's not who you think, Frederick Douglass Republican. So we put that shirt on. So we're driving Atlanta. Drove in the neighborhood that I'd never been in. Pulled up from a barbershop that, of course, I'd never been in. He'd never been in either. And I said to him, get out. He said, what? Get out the car and go get your hair cut. I'll be back in 2 hours. He said, what? You got to have faith, brother, that this thing works. I got to put you in the belly of the beast. Now go on and then get your hair cut. I'll be back in 2 hours. Go on, get out. So he gets out the car. I look at my rearview mirror. Brother, remember the Green Mile, Dead Man Walking? Go on, get your hair cut, man. 2 hours. He goes in there, and I come back after 2 hours. He comes down, he gets in the car. He said, man, that thing works. I said, tell me about it. He said, I went in, sat down, 13 black Americans in the barbershop. Sat down, he said, after the first 5 minutes, 2 guys says to him in unison, because they saw this shirt, are you a Republican? He was trained, though. He said, no, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. There's a difference between the two. The Republican Party today does not resemble the party of Frederick Douglass. And as a Frederick Douglass Republican and part of this movement, we got to have today's Republican Party recapture its political distinction when it was a defender of the Constitution and it made the plight of the poor and the working poor a legislative priority. Not in terms of entitlements, but to elevate the poor to become employees and entrepreneurs. You don't have to write this down. That takes me to my next point. I'm not here to hawk this book.
That's my job.
That's your job. But I'm here to share with you what works. Wrote a book entitled Frederick Douglass Republican, the movement to reignite America's passion for liberty. If you're going to have a discussion about saving liberty, you can't leave Douglass out of the equation. He was a slave for 20 years. This is an action handbook for conservatives. It gives you the information you need so you can engage. The first part of the book, I give you my testimony. But then I take those 4 life empowering values of Douglas, and I give you 5 quotes from Douglas. What did Douglas say about the Constitution? What did he say about belief in the limited government, personal responsibility, and respect for life? I give you 5 quotes. What did Douglas say about the 3/5 clause? It was Douglas who gave clarity to that. Back in 1861, he was in the debate in Glasgow, Scotland. What did Douglas say about immigration? Welfare mentality, wealth redistribution. Douglas said on one time, he said he said slavery is based on the distorted philosophy of taking the fruits of one man's labor and giving it to another so he can remain idle. That sounds like wealth redistribution to me. Thank God we have a literary legacy of the writings of Douglas to refute the propaganda and the lies of the left. This gives you the information you need to engage. The book is selling. I can't keep up with the books. But I found out when people were buying the book, they still were not engaging. I said, why are you not engaging, man? You got the book. You got the information. And it dawned on me. They have the information, but they don't have the confidence. So God set me down. I wrote a companion guide to that book. Got it in my ear. The companion guide is called, my ear's still ringing. I'm going to do it again. The companion guide is called The Most Asked Challenges. Let me share with you how God gave me this message. When you study the ministry of Jesus Christ, do you recall how sometimes the scribes and the Pharisees would try to trap the Christ to get him to say something damaging so they could discredit him? They never could do it, but they sure enough tried. They couldn't do it because they didn't realize that the Christ was a subject matter expert. And number 2, he had the gift. He could take their challenge, or the challenge is, he could turn it around and make a teachable moment. The liberal left try to attack us the same way. They try to get us to say something damaging so they can call us a racist, so they can call us a sellout, so they can discredit us. So when we try to engage, we've already been discredited, our message falls on deaf ears. See, the problem is not with the message. The problem is the method of delivering the message. The way we broaden this big tent is not by compromising conservative principles. You don't compromise it. We're not delivering it the right way. Because we're out here delivering a message, but we can't trump the race card. We can't defeat the class warfare attacks. So our message then falls on deaf ears. We got to study. And so God set me down. I studied that whole piece about and the psychological dynamics that took place. The psychological dynamic. Let me drink this water. This is not going right now. But I'm gonna get it out. Don't tell me to slow down. They got me on clock.
We'll take some attention.
Okay. And he had me to sit down, God did, and I studied these psychological dynamics that took place. So what we must do as conservatives, we got to learn how to take the challenges of the left. How you take those challenges and you turn it around and you make a teachable moment when you inspire them to join the race of movement like the Christ did with the Pharisees and the scribes, because many of them joined the race of his movement. So in this companion guide, I identified the 12 most asked challenges that we face as conservatives. How you take that challenge, you turn it around and you make it a teachable moment, and you inspire them to join the race of your movement. Let me give you a couple examples. Let's say before you met me, you are here engaging. If somebody asked you, are you a conservative, what would you have said? You said yes, you just lost. When you studied Christ's ministry, he never responded to a challenge by saying yes or no. You won't find that. He said, it is written, I tell you the truth, meaning that he knew his history. Or sometimes he will respond to the challenge with a question. K. Carl, are you a conservative? Because you remember now we're losing the propaganda battle. You say conservatives, the word conservative, the name Tea Party, Republican Party, Constitution, those are politically attacked words. There are attack words. When the left hear it, they go into dog mode and they attack. K. Carl, are you a conservative? I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican, or I'm a Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger, and I believe in a foreign life and power and values of Frederick Douglass, respect for the U.S. Constitution, respect for life. I believe in liberty, government, and I believe in personal responsibility. And sometimes you got to ask that question. You got to ask them a question, because think about it now. This is a center-right nation. If this is a center-right nation, why we got such a difficult time getting folks to join our movement? We're losing the propaganda battle. Do you share those values of Douglass? Most folks are going to say yes. Guess what? That makes you a conservative. Better still, that makes you a Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger. And that's the hook. Okay, Carl. Well, how would you have responded before you met me? Before you met me, you're out there engaging. Somebody asks you, "Are you a Republican?" You would say, "Yes, you just lost." Well, how about this? If you call yourself a constitutional conservative, you might as well call yourself a racist. Those two words have been demonized. And I want to say this to you. God gave you Frederick Douglass Republican. Don't go out there and call it Frederick Douglass Libertarian. Don't call it Frederick Douglass Patriot. God gave you that because that is an oxymoron. Frederick Douglass, an icon of liberty, because losing the propaganda battle, Republican, an icon of slavery. So when you say it, it stops people in their track. They want you to explain what that oxymoron is all about. You start driving the narrative. You start framing the debate. You become the influencer of the conversation. I know what you're saying. Okay, Carl, most folks don't know anything about Douglass. That is to our advantage. Because unlike the Christ, we have to carefully study to show ourselves approved. We got to carefully study, know our history. When you know the history and the substance of Douglass, and they don't, who's driving the narrative? Who becomes the influence of the conversation? Who is inspiring whom? Most folks want to be informed. So the powerful thing about this message is, there's so many things I can tell you, but in order to get my vote, you first got to gain my trust. What I've learned over the past 5 years of delivering this message, when I say that I am a Frederick Douglass Republican or a Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger as an African American, that is a powerful concept to express. It allows me to be on the offense. What I learned is this: it is more powerful when you say it, not being an African American, than when I say it. Here's why I say that. Through the media. What's all we hear? White conservatives are racist. Tea Party activists are racist. 9/12ers are racist. They're racist, 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 racist. And when you have one of them saying that I hold Frederick Douglass in high esteem, I'm a Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger, you just changed everything in their mind. You get a chance to drive the narrative. You get a chance to frame the debate. You start inspiring them. That's why Douglass is key. This is simple, but it's not easy. It's simple because you understand it. It's a no-brainer. It's not easy because I'm asking you to get out of the conservative closet and step into the arena of political debate, informed and confident. With this message, what I'm doing, I'm putting you into a more comfortable comfort zone by cloaking yourself with Douglass. That's what I'm doing. It works. It's bulletproof. It's more effective when you do it than when I say it. And you got to carefully study and show yourself approved. You can't be an empty suit and do this thing. Because the only argument, the only defense, the attack the left is going to do is this: oh, you just using Douglass to get black votes. That's what they're going to say. Here's how you respond to that. I don't care how much you study Douglas, they're going to say it. You can have your PhD in Douglas, they're still going to say it. Here's how you respond, and I did it on the show one time. You don't know my Damascus Road story. You don't know my Damascus Road story. And don't let them write your testimony. They don't know how the God in your life inspires you and touches your heart every day. But they want to write your testimony. You can't let them do that. They want to separate you from Douglas. It's over when you do that. So, with that, let's get into some questions. Questions, not statements. Questions.
But good Lord, he sounded a lot like Curtis. No editorializing, just state your question, we'll get to the answer. So, who's first?
Yes, sir.
Where can you learn? Where can you get trained? I mean, reading the book is fine.
Yes, sir.
The test is fine, but I mean, could it take more than that? Like sales training?
Yeah, you got to bring me back to Atlanta, to Tampa, and I can do 2 hours training. This is a very much a transferable skill. Now, you're going to have to practice the pattern about for a week in front of the mirror, because it's got to roll off your lips in terms of those 12 challenges. But the training is only 2 hours, because what happens, the first part of the training, we talk about Douglas in more detail. Why did God give me Frederick Douglass and he didn't give me Booker T. Washington? Why Frederick Douglass, not Martin Luther King? Why he gave me Frederick Douglass and he didn't give me Joseph out of the Bible? And I explained that. The second piece is we start and we get into the Frederick Douglass Republican methodology of engagement. How to talk to your friends. How to talk to your family members. Everybody got somebody that comes to your house on Thanksgiving that makes Thanksgiving a tough time. How do you talk to them where you don't get up and go to the dining table yourself? You got to bring me back.
We're going to see what we can do with that. Roger.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Carl, good to see you again.
Great seeing you.
I have the book from, I believe it was the Florida P5, the Freedom Works event in Orlando, 2010. If you signed the first one.
Yeah, at the bouquet.
Yeah, how much do you think that signature signed book is worth today?
Probably not. I don't know. Hold on to it for another 100 years. We'll see.
Ever the entrepreneur.
That's right. Oh, wait. Oh, I've got to tell you that we got the books here. They come in that package. The package is free. What you're paying for is the autograph, and I'm a capitalist too. And the autograph is $25. So.
All your questions, sit down.
No, there was no package when I bought the book.
Okay, well, you're out of luck because you got it too early.
I love it.
No, we'll look at you tomorrow. See me afterwards. Yes.
Hi, you mentioned voting with your heart. There's a few people I know that are close to me that didn't vote with their heart. Give me like a bullet point or something that I could get that point across.
In the chapter, the question is, I mentioned about voting not with your heart, but voting your values. There's a chapter in the book called
While he's thinking
Local
about,
Level Engagement.
While he's thinking about what chapter it is, by the way, it's in the book and we have books for sale.
Yeah, the chapter's called The Final Word. And in the final word, what I say is this: the way that the values we possess should be the guiding principle of the way we vote. In other words, the way I vote should be reflective of the values I possess. What are my values? My Christian beliefs are my values. That should drive and determine how I vote. I will say this: when I talk to people and I engage, especially people who are voting, who are conservative but they're voting the opposite way, what you got to do with them, you got to take party affiliation off the table. Because with my case, I had more loyalty and allegiance to the Democrat Party than I did to the God that I served. That's how much of a schizophrenic I was. And what you got to say to them, look, I told my mother, it doesn't matter what party, this is what got it. Mama, it doesn't matter what party you're in. It doesn't matter. If you want to be a Democrat, that's fine. I can't be a Democrat no more. Because I'm not going to be a part of the political party that put my great-great-grandfather in slavery. It was a Democrat party. She didn't know that. I said, also, Mother, it doesn't matter what party you're in. The question is, that has to be asked, the way in which you vote, does it show your love and your faithfulness to the God that you say you serve? And that's that personal review process that you want them to take place in their lives. They got to have a dialogue between the God they serve and themselves. Revelations, 2 Corinthians 13:5. Put that on.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I know that you speak to groups like ours.
Yes.
But do you speak to groups that are Democrats,
Yes. Like to go to black churches?
like white Democrats?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because they need to.
But white Democrats, black Democrats, it doesn't matter. You're exactly right. But, oh yeah, I want to address this clip about black preachers. I've always asked, well, Carl, we got to get to the black preachers and get this word out that way. Stop focusing on the black preachers. Think about it now. If I'm a black preacher, and most of my folks in my congregation vote Democrat, and so do I, you want me to come in now and share this with them, I'm going to lose some folks in my congregation. Here's how you deal with that. What we've learned is, in terms of when you get this training, you got to start within your circle of influence. You got to talk to your friends, your family members, and your fellow citizens, and there's a ripple effect because of that. They attend some church. They're going to share this thing will be inspiration to them. They're going to take it to church. And then when the pastor sees that this Frederick Douglass Republican sentiment is growing, that's when they get in front of the group and start leading. So, see what I'm saying? Quit focusing on the pastors, the preachers. Talk to your friends, your family members, your fellow citizens. You start flipping them. This truth is hard to fight. It's so inspirational, so powerful. It's God-given.
This is an important thing. We have God who's undermined in this country. So that's very, very important. That basically there's a flaw in the argument because they believe God at all.
If they don't believe in God at all, then this message is not for them. I mean, if they don't believe in God, it's just not for them. And that's fine.
But the thing is,
But they may have a moral compass. That's right. They have a moral compass. In other words, you don't have to be a Christian to accept this thing. Because I'm like Frederick Douglass, we have the right to worship the way that's pleasing to us. But we do share some moral concepts. Douglass was a pluralist. When the Mormons were being attacked back in the 1800s, Douglass said, leave them alone. They have a right to worship the way they want to worship. Douglass said, leave them alone. So what I'm doing, I'm giving you my testimony. And I have a Christian testimony. But that doesn't mean I'm belittling somebody else's belief. But this is my testimony that God has given me. And I have my right to worship. Yes, ma'am.
How is the advertising, I guess, if you can get on like BET, because a lot,
Yeah.
they look at those.
Yeah, how do we get this thing on a national level through some of these? I have to be careful about some of these shows because they're ambush. Because they don't want the truth to come out.
Right.
They don't want it to come out. So here's what God has taught me. When you study the ministry of the Apostle Paul, he used the synagogue to launch himself into the Gentile community. Well, if he used the synagogue, Paul was preaching to the choir. And the choir went out there and brought in new choir members. He used the synagogue. So what that's telling me, Paul went through familiar surroundings to get the word out. I get on conservative talk show. See, the way we save this nation, we got to grow a nationwide army of Frederick Douglass Liberty messengers, and you got to get out there and do it. That's the answer. Don't call K. Smith to come to Tampa and go to preach to a black church. Because when I leave, you're going to mess it all up because I haven't been trained. You follow me? You got to know how to keep it going. So, but the easiest mindset people fall to, say, Carl, I got a black church I want you to talk to. That's not the answer. The answer is becoming disciples ourselves with this message. And this is a ministry for me. That's the answer. Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
Why do you feel that in our society today, and as much as educated that blacks are versus the way they were in the 60s when Johnson set out to turn the blacks more towards Democrats when he signed the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, and he set out a goal to capture the black vote back then. Why has it been so many years that educated blacks like you and Willie Lawson and everything, why is it that they don't see this? That it's obvious for us to see it. You see it and everything. They're educated. They have the internet. They have everything. They see the news.
Here's the thing.
So slow on
Here's the thing, and I can only give my testimony on this. I was brainwashed. The leadership of the Democrat Party, they are deceivers and they are liars. And when you don't know the truth, you can't recognize a lie. Let me give you an example. Tonight, you got a homework assignment. Go to the Democrat Party's website. Go to Google, type in DNC. Go to their website tonight. On the home page is an About link. In a subcategory says Our History. When you go to that Our History page, here's the first sentence you're going to see. And you tell me what's wrong with this sentence. Quote, for more than 200 years, we have led the fight for civil rights. Comma, women's rights, comma, workers' rights. Well, hell, 200 years ago was 1813. Slavery was alive and well back then, and the Democrat Party in their platform supported slavery. They weren't championing civil rights. What are you talking about workers' rights for? Slave workers, you just want their rights. What they're doing, they're going after the next generation. When you don't know the truth, you can't recognize a lie. And they've been lying for a long time, George Wallace, thinking he's a Republican. Bull Connor, I'm thinking he was a Republican. When you don't stand for truth, you must be the wizard of propaganda. When you don't stand for truth, you must deceive, you must lie. And the same mentality is, if you're doing those things, when it comes to voting, you're going to cheat. They're busted now. And why haven't the RNC come out with a press release calling the Democrats to tell the truth about their history on their website?
Yes.
They don't have a backbone. And they don't use Douglas. That's the problem. Let me finish my last sentence here. They don't use Douglas. Every day, the left, the Democrat Party, they're attacking us. You got to come out and defend yourself every day. And you better be using Douglas every day. Douglas was alive back then in the 1800s. They said 200 years ago, 1813, Douglas was born in 1818 into slavery. Douglas wrote an essay. That's why the literary legacy of Douglas is so important. Douglas wrote an essay back in 1854, I think it was, called The Slavery Party. And I quote, the best representation of slavery in politics is the Democrat Party. That's what Douglas said. Now they're saying they supported civil rights for more than 200 years. Somebody's lying. And it ain't Douglas. Liberals are morally corrupt. And we got some problem with those in the Republican Party too. We don't need to start a third party. The rhinos need to go start a third party. We're going to take back this country. And those who want to follow socialist, Marxist principles, take that stuff back to France, where you got it from. This is about liberty here. Get off that soapbox.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
The liberals have done a great job in infiltrating the educational system from kindergarten to graduate work. How do we overcome that?
Ooh, that's a good, because that's a systematic problem.
And that's where that's
What we got to do,
we
got to engage at the local level. We got to get involved in politics is local. And so what has to happen as you become, you start carefully studying and showing yourself approved, you become Frederick Douglass Liberty Messengers, you're going to grow this thing. It's by the growth of the grassroots movement. Here's what I contend. The number one resource we have to save this station, the RNC is not utilizing it. They are not utilizing it. You know what that is? That's the conservative base. Nobody's teaching you how to engage. Nobody's giving you a strategy how to get out there and engage. I just gave you one. The RNC don't know how to do it. So they want to send black folks out to go do it. Talk to black folks. Go talk to the Urban League. Go talk to NAACP. They don't want you there. You start engaging your friends, your family members, your fellows. That's the answer. But you got to empower yourself with the knowledge. You got to carefully study to show it's going to improve. I gave a book. My brother gave a book to a black preacher friend of his, and he was inspired by the book. This time it worked. And he said, "Come and talk to my congregation." So I went to speak. Before I got a chance to speak, a middle-aged black woman came up to me and said, I'm an Obama lover. You and I will never agree. We're in a church setting. I said, "Ma'am, you're exactly right, because I'm a Jesus Christ lover." She said, "Wait a minute, I'm a Jesus Christ lover." I said, "Wait a minute, that's not what you said. He wasn't on your mind, he didn't come out your mouth. You said exactly what you meant." I said, "Man, look at here. You go to Bible study. You go to church. You got a Bible study, a home study program. You're dissecting his word. You're going to break it down and get a better understanding of his word. Now, he couldn't sin, but you're going to check it out." Obama's like all of us. He has a sinful nature. You don't even question his policies. You don't put forth the same kind of effort. What do you think she did? She bought a book. Yes, sir.
As part of engagement,
Yes, sir.
is it important for us to be members of and active in the local Republican Party?
No,
No.
Why or why not?
I'm a member.
We're going to close with this question.
Okay. Yeah. I got to go vertical with this one. The question is it necessary to be part of the party? I got two ways I can answer that. I would say you can be in it but not of it. Be in it but not of it. If we're going to change, we got to be in it. But we don't have to be of it, accepting this whole stance of being of moderation. We got to be that voice. We got to be that salt and that light there. So, is it necessary? But it's not necessary.
Is it important?
I think it has its place. It does have its place. But we still can be successful, but not be a part of it with a strong voice. But we got to take it over. So it's important.
Would another way to say that be, if you can't beat them, join them, then beat them?
So I would say, this is Kay Carr's perspective on that. When you say that you are a Frederick Douglass Republican, understand that means that you're not that you are anti-status quo. You are anti-establishment Republican Party. You want the Republican Party to recapture its political distinction. And the way to do that, we can't take our bat and ball and go home. We got to stay there in it. I learned that from studying Douglass quickly. When Douglass was in the abolitionist movement, which was predominantly white, Douglass dealt with racism within the abolitionist movement. He did not quit the abolitionist movement, go home and start finger pointing and insulting. We got to stay in, we got to interact, we got to impact. We got to interact, we got to impact. That's a Jesus Christ strategy. Interact, and so we got to get in. But here's the thing, though. We need people in both. This is why I had a hesitation. We need people in both political parties with a Frederick Douglass perspective. So if a person will be a Democrat and have a Frederick Douglass perspective, let them stay in that party and do it. So the thing is not to get people to join the Republican Party. That's a personal decision. The thing is to get people to vote their values, and they'll figure out their party stuff later. But we need people in both political parties with a Frederick Douglass perspective. Interact and impact, not insult and instigate. Interact and impact is a Jackie Robinson, Frederick Douglass, Jesus Christ strategy. Remember the lady who was caught in adultery? They wanted to stone her. Everybody was finger pointing. The Christ came up and said, "He who, without saying, you cast the first stone." When the dust settled, everybody left. And there's Christ there interacting and impacting with that lady, changing that life. That's what we must do. So what I've learned is, I'm saying it as an example is this. If the Tea Party 912 are racist, What I'm learning is the place I need to be is in that movement. Because when you interact and impact, you raise the level of morality of people around you. That's what Douglas did. But when you, out of the movement, you insult and instigate, you create more racial hatred. So we got to interact and impact. So yeah, we got to be in it. If you want to say this party. But if you want to be a Democrat, that's fine too. We got to say that party too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless you.